We are back. What's up, good people? This is Luther, and this is the Guessnicity Podcast. And this is the place where I give the case and you guess the race. And today I am joined by my good guest, me, myself, and I have nobody with me today. It's just gonna be me. So things are going to be a little different. Unfortunately, earlier this week, really last week, it is now Sunday, starting Sunday of last week, I had some stomach issues. I was a little sick and was out of it. So I never got an episode together. I never spoke with anybody to be guest. And so, not to disappoint you guys, I already have been working on a solo episode that I was going to do as bonus content. So I figured I would do that for this episode. But with that being said, my idea for this episode, when I'm putting it together, it's not all the way done in the sense of the script is done, but I wanted to have like photos and images and all this other stuff, almost making it to a big storyboard. But I'll probably still add some if you're watching this. If I do end up putting this out as a video and you're watching this, I'm not just going to have you looking at me read the script this whole time. So if I can throw some stuff in there in this video form, then just know as you watch, more things are to come. That's just not going to be me here reading. But with that being said, let's get into it. Today we're going to do things a little different, guys. I don't want you to just listen to this story I have because I'm only bringing one case. I want you to experience it as well. So I want you to try to picture everything that I describe. And as I do, try to picture the suspect, even though I won't give you a description of him too much. I want you to try to remember where your mind takes you. When you get to the end, or when we get close to the end, I will probably ask, so what race does our suspect look like to you? In your mind, what were you picturing as I went through this story and as we went through it together? So for this episode, you're not just going to be a listener. I want you to be a passenger on this airplane ride that we're getting ready to go on. So with that being said, let's jump into it. It's December 4th, 1986. You pull into the airport, LAX airport to be exact, a flight with Pacific Southwest Airlines. It was a small regional airline based out of California and primarily flew flights within California. They were in existence from 1949 through 1988. Today, the PSA name is still being used as one of American Airlines' subsidiary regional airlines. But anyway, back to you arriving at the airport. It's one of those busy days. Cars are everywhere. People rushing. You grab your bag, you step out, and you head inside. The airport smells like coffee. There's movement everywhere. You check your ticket. Los Angeles to San Francisco. Quick flight, nothing crazy. You move through the security. Back then, it wasn't as bad as what it is today. Yeah, they had the x-ray machines where they kind of look through your bag, and you have metal detectors that you would go through. You show your ID, you walk through, no real stress. You don't think twice about it. You get to your gate, people are sitting around, some reading, some half asleep. You hear the boarding announcement. Now boarding flight 1771 to San Francisco. You stand up, you grab your bag, you walk down the jet bridge. You step onto the plane. You find your seat. 17A, a window seat. You sit down, you look outside, planes move, ground crew working, everything feels normal. They push you back from the jet bridge. They lined you up. And then you hear the engines rev up a little bit more. You start to move forward. You move around the airport and you make your way to the runway. The plane begins to move, slow at first, then faster. You feel that push back into your seat. And just like that, you're in the air. You look out the window, the city is shrinking below you. It's smooth, a little turbulence here and there, but nothing serious. The kind of turbulence where people just glance up, then go back to what they're doing. Flight attendants come by, drinks are served. Someone a few rows up from you is laughing. You relax. Up ahead, you see a gentleman get up with a barf bag in his hand, and he hands it to another gentleman as he walks to the restroom. You think nothing of it and look out the window. Now let's move forward into the cockpit. Two pilots, experienced, calm. They've done this flight hundreds of times. They're talking about the ride. Light chop, nothing unusual. One of them radios. Any reports of turbulence ahead? Response comes back. Not too bad. Everything is under control. And then, everything's not. A sound cuts through everything. Sharp, violent. A gunshot. Both pilots freeze for a split second. They look at each other. One of them says it out loud. That was a gun. They don't hesitate. They radio immediately. We've had a gun fired on board the aircraft. The situation changes instantly, from routine to emergency. The cockpit doors burst open. A flight attendant, panicked, her voice shaking. There's a problem. The captain turns. What's the problem? And then a new voice, calm, controlled. I'm the problem. Gunfire erupts. One shot, then two, and three. Inside the cockpit, the pilots are hit. The flight attendant, hit. Now, no one's flying the plane, but someone is at the controls. And then he makes a decision. He pushes forward. Hard. The nose drops. Let's go back to you in your seat at 17A. You're not paying attention when the gunshot goes off. Pow, you look up, you see a man pointing a gun and then turning, heading towards the cockpit. You don't know what's going on up there. You hear more shots fired. You feel something off. Then suddenly, you're thrown forward. People scream. Drinks spill. Luggage shifts. The plane is diving fast. You're pressed against your seatbelt as the plane dives forward. But then slowly, you start to feel yourself almost feel weightless. And then that weightlessness stops turning to a weightless feeling and then feels like your seat is pushing you to the ground. You're falling faster and faster, faster than anything you've ever felt. Your stomach drops. Your body feels heavy against the seat. You don't understand what's happening, but you know this isn't normal. Back to the cockpit recording. You hear wind screaming, engines pushing to max power, alarms blaring. The plane is accelerating, out of control. In the final seconds, you hear one final shot, and then silence. The plane hits the ground. Instantly, no survivors. Now, let me explain to you what happened when the plane was falling. It is said that this plane accelerated, and this is a passenger jet. So this was a British Aerospace 146, a short-haul regional airliner that was manufactured out of the United Kingdom. Production was from 1983 until 2001. This plane is no longer being produced. I don't even know if it's even being flown anywhere right now. Okay, so this was a smaller passenger plane. A regional jet carried about 70 people on it. So what these people felt was they said this plane ended up breaking the sound barrier on the way down to the ground. That's how fast this plane was going because he nosedived it and pushed the throttle all the way. So, yeah, there were no survivors. The plane crash was so bad that it says when it hit the ground, it was about 5,000 G's impact when they hit the ground. So when you hit the ground that hard, there was no nose of the plane left, no fuselage, no wings, and no tail. No plane was there. There were actually no seats intact, no full seats that they found intact at all that looked like an actual seat. They just found pieces of a seat. So basically, this plane disintegrated. There were 43 people on it at the time. They were only able to identify 11 people. Everybody else was pretty much gone, just body parts or not there at all, vaporized. Now, when you hit the ground that hard in an airplane and going that fast, yes, all the metal and everything breaks apart, explodes, but all the light stuff like paper gets shot into the air. So everything inside the plane, paper-wise, pretty much came out intact for the most part. But yeah, I kind of wanted to give you an understanding of how fast that plane was going when it crashed. This is not your typical plane crash where it kind of coasts down into the ground. No, this is legit a straight nosedive into the ground, going full speed. Now, let's rewind and learn a little bit about who did this crime. Because it doesn't start on the plane. It actually starts 2 weeks earlier. Our suspect worked for the airline for 14 years. He knew the system, he knew the people, and recently he lost everything. He was fired, accused of theft. Not a huge amount of money, only $69. It was what the flight attendants, it was one of their change drawers that they would use back then. Of course, when you bought drinks, you could use cash to buy drinks and everything on the plane. So it was one of the drawers that they used to make change for customers, enough to get him fired. So he had a chance to appeal being fired and had a meeting. When he went into their meeting for the appeal, his appeal was denied. This was the final decision. This appeal happened on the day of this flight. So witnesses say he wasn't calm when he left the meeting. There was anger in his eyes, humiliation, but also something else, intent. He made a comment on the way out to the receptionist who told him, "Hey, have a nice day." He says, "I plan to have a very nice day." That wasn't casual. That was a warning. So in 1986, it's not like it is right now. When he got fired, they didn't take his credentials right away. So when they let him go, he went out to his car. He grabbed a gun, a .44 Magnum. He then went inside, bought a ticket for flight 1771, going from Los Angeles to San Francisco. So after he bought his ticket, instead of going through security, he still had his credentials. He used his credentials to bypass security. No metal detector, no bag scan, nothing. And he boarded the plane like normal. But this wasn't random. There was someone on the flight. The man who fired him, his former boss. You see, back then it was normal for executives to fly back and forth to work. So PSA was home-based in Los Angeles. But there was executives who lived all over California who would fly in to work every day and fly home at the end of the day. And his boss was one of those who took this exact flight. So our suspect just sat on the plane waiting. So mid-flight, it is thought that he got up, handed Ray, his former boss, a note that he handwritten on an air sickness bag because it was found in the wreckage. And the note said, "Hi, Ray. I think it's sort of ironical." His words, "I think it's sort of ironical that we end up like this. I asked for some leniency for my family, remember? Well, I got none, and you'll get none." And then it's thought because on the flight data recorder, both the flight data recorder and the voice recorder, the black boxes, both were actually damaged. That's how hard this impact was to people. That you don't hear that too often. Both black boxes were damaged and both had limited data on them. But they did get to hear the audio from the cockpit during the crash, so they heard the shots. So before the first shot went off, they did hear someone go to the restroom. It sounds like you hear the restroom door open and close, and then open and close again shortly after, and then that's when the shots happen. So that's why I'm saying that they're thinking that he got up, handed the note to Ray, went to the restroom, pulled out his gun, came out, and then shot. And then after shooting Ray twice, he turns and comes to the cockpit and follows that flight attendant in, and then shoots both the pilot and the flight attendant. And so they heard that on the tape. And then they said they heard one final gunshot. Remember, you said they heard that and then it went silent? Some people thought that maybe he shot himself, but that's not the case, and I'll tell you why. They're thinking that last gunshot, remember I said that airline workers would fly back and forth just for work? There was another pilot that was on the plane who was just flying home at the end of the day. And so the thought is he probably came after he felt the plane and everything go forward. He's probably trying to go up there to try to save the plane. And our suspect ended up shooting him, keeping him from getting to the plane. That's what they're assuming. The reason they say they know our suspect did not commit suicide or kill himself before the plane went down is because the crash was so bad and so significant, the gun even broke apart as part of the crash. But inside of the trigger guard, there was a piece of skin. His finger was still in there. From that piece of skin, they were able to get a partial fingerprint and were able to use that fingerprint to identify our suspect. And then again, tied the note to him that they found also. And then they knew who they were dealing with at that point. So what race pops into your head when you hear about a killer who loses his job working for the airline, had been working for the airline for 14 years, and decides to go grab a gun, and instead of just killing his former boss and shooting him alone, decides to get on an aircraft, kill him, and take everybody out with him? Okay, so now that I've given you all the information on this case, as I told the story, in your mind, what color man were you thinking? Put it in the comments. Where was your mind going? Who did you see? What did you picture? Who did you picture? Well, in this case, our suspect's name is David Burke. David Burke was born in London, England, and then immigrated with his parents at a young age. David Burke is of Jamaican descent. David Burke is a black man. Is that who you pictured? Is that who you thought? One man's anger, one decision, in 65 seconds. 65 seconds is all it took to end the lives of 43 people. And the scariest part, he didn't have to force his way into the plane. He was already inside. So please let me know. How'd you like this format? I'm not getting rid of Guessnicity. It's going to be the exact same as what it normally is. It's just this week was something different. But let me know if you would like something like this for more bonus content, or maybe turn this into its own separate podcast where I just tell a story and you have to guess the race at the end, man. I hope you enjoyed it. I know this is not as long as what some of my normal episodes. It's going to be pretty short, but I had to get something out to you people, man. I appreciate all of you who listen and subscribe. I apologize again for this short episode, but I had to get something out to you, man. I appreciate every single one of y'all. Everything's still going. Still come join the Patreon, patreon.com/Guessnicity. Find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, man, we're there. All right, guys, you have a good one. All right, peace.